We're gonna get you.
So the year was Halloween Horror Nights 23. We were just coming from Halloween Horror Nights 22, which was a rather weird year. A lot of people were, kind of not having too much hope until we had the Evil Dead house announced. We were very excited because this is the first time this property has ever been featured at the Halloween Horror Nights for a full-fledged house on its own. Now, Halloween Horror Nights 23 was a year that we did not have an icon. We didn't have one for 22, and we also didn't have one for 24. So our running thing was basically vines and woods, and that was really much it. Not really anything too exciting when you take a look at the other years that we've had an icon kind of tie the event together. Now, if you do not know what Unmasking the Horror is, it's basically a tour that you get to take around the houses, and you don't get to film, but you only get to take photos. So that's why you're going to sit back and enjoy some of these photos. Now, what you're seeing is basically the pages of the Necronomicon sort of dealt out as if they were being chanted and talked about in ways, and that's thus why the pages kind of have this sort of angle to them. Now, this is the first thing that you see before you even reached into the house was just the pages, and you would hear the narration of the Necronomicon going on, thus inciting that the evil was fastly approaching the cabin. And these are some really, really awesome props. I wish they would have sold these in the store, because I know a lot of people probably would have purchased them. And what's really cool is all the imagery on these are really good tie-ins to the movie itself. So, most of these you are seeing are lifted right out of the movie. Another classic saying from the Evil Dead franchise. And what you will find is that although this is based upon the 2013 remake, most of this house features stuff from Evil Dead 2. So a lot of little nods that you're going to find throughout. And thus, after the pages, you see the giant Evil Dead logo above your head. And then you enter the cabin. And if you do not know, Halloween Horror Nights likes to throw a lot of little Easter eggs throughout the house. A lot of little jokes, such as this, saying, evil never dies, as in Evil Dead. Just a little magazine that you wouldn't even notice unless you took the tour and really looked around. And some of the detailing that the scenic department handles, it's quite well, because you can see that this looks just like a cabin. You couldn't even tell that this is a haunted house or something staged. Now, what we have here is a static figure that's just everybody thinks is a real person. He's basically reading the Necronomicon, even though the words say don't say it. He proceeds to say it, thus releasing the evil upon the cabin, everybody in the cabin who is threatening to kill us. Like I said, there is some very details in this house. As you can see, all the drawn stuff on the page, it looks absolutely beautiful. And this was just a picture just to show that they do pay attention to a lot of different stuff. This is just something you would have never noticed walking around the house, but it's really cool that they have these kind of old board games just to give you that old feel that the cabin has been around for ages. And here's another prop that you wouldn't notice, Swamp Thing, which is kind of cool because, you know, the Swamp Thing has a real history tied to Universal Orlando. And if you don't know that, go ahead and look it up. But that's just a little neat little thing I saw, and I wanted to snap a photo of it. And like I said, there's some more detailed shots of the cabin. It looks just like a cabin. It's crazy. And this clock is very special because this clock is a nod to Evil Dead 2, in which there is a scene where the clock stops and you're going to see some possession happening. And speaking of possession, we have a character, which is another static figure that was supposed to have an effect of like the vine, I guess, going into her mouth. It didn't really work that well during the run of the house. And this is the infamous shower cutting scene, basically. I'm going to put a video so you can understand what I was talking about in this scene in relation to the actual movie and to the actual house. And here we have a bonus room that was not really used for anything. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be an extra scare or just a certain extra room that they built that they never ended up using. So sometimes they do that. They build extra stuff, and sometimes it gets scrapped and not needed for the actual run through of the house. And here we have a cutting board. This scene is very, very bloody. Obviously, if you've never seen the movie, this is a scene where a female takes a meat carver, which you're about to see, and she cuts off her own arm, I believe. I'm going to put a clip of that also in so you can understand in relation from the movie to the actual haunted house. And what you're going to see is right behind that red door it's basically the boo hole door where the actor comes out or switches the role, but depending on what is needed. That is what they call a boo hole door. That is an industry term they use, boo hole door. And here is a great scene where we see an evil possessed person is right underneath the floorboard basically and is talking when they have a live mic, which is really cool. I'm going to put that scene in as well.
Not another peep.
And we dive deeper into the cabin. More so, it kind of takes a steep kind of drop like you're going down into the basement. And what you're seeing above your head are cats, mutilated cats. They were very fluffy and they would kind of swing around, and it was a very effective scare. And here's just some more of the detail in the cabin. You can see the detail done on the cats, and a random raccoon is just sitting in a corner. I don't know if it was just a joke of them putting that in there, but I always loved seeing that raccoon in the bottom of the cabin. And this is like a, skinless cat, just creepy. A lot of people really freaked out for this scene when they went by it. So, like I said, it worked pretty well. And this is our portion of where we head out of the cabin, and we basically almost go through some woods type settings. It worked really well with the lights off because it kind of made it seem like the woods were all around you. Also, the infamous ravens. Horror Nights kind of has this thing with ravens. Everywhere you look, there's always going to be a raven somewhere in the house, somewhere in the zone. So always keep a lookout for the ravens. And this is almost getting towards the end of the movie where I believe Mia is trying to escape, and her vehicle kind of forces her to cut off her own arm. And this is the scene where it is raining blood. She comes out with a chainsaw to scare us before we head into the cabin once more. Now what's cool about this cabin is the windows kind of have this fire effect to make it look like the cabin was on fire. And also there is the battery thing that was used in the movie as well. You can it's just a little neat Easter egg if you notice. And there's the Necronomicon sitting on the bench. Just smaller stuff that you wouldn't notice unless you're paying attention or looking around. Like I said earlier, Horror Nights loves to do that where they stick little stuff everywhere for you to look. And you saw some more pages, and there was one more character that pops out around here. And that is it for my Unmasking the Horror look on Evil Dead. If you enjoyed this and you want to see more of these, leave this video a thumbs up. And please comment down below if you went through this house, if you enjoyed it or not. And until next time, guys, Zombie Chris, out.